Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. And Julie Harris, it is September the 8th, and I have good news for you.
You do? What's that?
7 days until our 30th wedding anniversary.
Yes, and we're going to have a lovely dinner here in Puerto Rico.
Hey, hold on. Why is it when I was telling you that you look surprised? Did you forget our anniversary?
I was surprised that was your surprise.
That's kind of an insult. You were surprised that I was looking forward to our anniversary.
No. You usually surprise me with some kind of we have 50 billion listeners or something like that.
Oh,
it's usually a business thing. So.
No, that's pretty, it's mega, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's incredible. I was talking to a couple of people about that today, and it's like, 29 years was great. 25 years was great. It was 30 years. I don't know. It feels kind of weird.
It is a little weird. We've been married longer than some of our listeners have been alive. Mostly that's good. You and I talk all the time about, we'll notice something and we'll say, well, we know that because we have some experience at this point in our lives. We shouldn't be surprised by that. We've been at this for a while. So, yeah, happy anniversary.
Yeah, you too. Well, almost, right? Yep. But I was talking with Trevor in our team today, and I was asking him about doing a little promotion or doing some sort of little celebratory marketing, thing around our anniversary. Mm-hmm. And he was asking for my input on it, he didn't know what the heck I was talking about. And I said, well, let me ask you, what does it mean to you when you hear somebody that when you meet somebody that's been married for 30 years? What is it? What are the thoughts that pop into your head? And he started rattling off all these really, thoughts that he had, these random sort of thoughts. But it is kind of fascinating, too, if you think about it, because if you've been married for 30 years or even 10 years, really, 5 years, 12 months, if you're married, let's just be honest here, right? I mean, you are basically pledging to making a long-term commitment, just like the marital vows say, and it's going to be something that's going to have a lot of ups and downs, and be a lot of work. It's going to be a partnership, and our partnership has been complex because we obviously are best friends. We're married. We're the parents to a beautiful little girl. We have our business. We've been connected professionally and personally in a multitude of ways, and to do that for 30 years is a huge accomplishment.
I agree, especially to do that through different stages of your life. It's how you think about everything changes, from the time you're 20 to even the time you're 30. And certainly by the time you're, our rickety ages.
Oh, we're not rickety.
I know.
But, the fact is.
But it does change how your outlook is.
It does change, but you don't change, really.
Right.
You're not that different from the person that I married almost 30 years ago, and neither am I.
No.
I mean, the fundamental core attributes and aspects are there, But anyway, so there it is. I didn't mean to have that be at the start of our podcast, but it is.
So we may have something having to do with that coming up. You and Trevor were talking about.
Oh,
something
right.
Rather.
So he's going to create a little, something celebratory thing, because it also, our marriage and our, long-term, our business has been essentially we've been in the real estate business almost as long as we've been married.
That's true.
So it's kind of interesting for me to think about, talking with Trevor, who is our marketing genius. And I look at, I'm talking with him about this little celebratory post and whatnot he's going to do. But it is fascinating to see how much the business has and our personal lives has paralleled each other. It's kind of incredible. And that's one of the gifts you get as an entrepreneur, whether you're working with your spouse or you have a partner or whatever, is the fact that to make a business work at a high level requires such a level of commitment for a long period of time. Because Julie and I have been in business together for over 25 years, and selling real estate, and we had a couple of businesses before we got into real estate. But if you think about the amount of commitment it makes to the business to keep a business successful and growing every year for that long period of time, it's extraordinary because there's so many changes that you have to deal with constantly. And you and I, when we were on our walk this morning, we were talking about all the changes that we've seen just in the past, effectively 15 years. And, pandemics and real estate crashes and wars and all those things aside, there's been so many different things that have changed with regards to business in general, how business is done, how consumers expect to be dealt with. But even on a more tactical perspective, which is what I was talking to Trevor about, how many different things have changed in just the last 24 to 36 months. about how to generate leads, how to generate sales, how to generate interest in what you have to say, how everything's gotten really noisy, and how to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And what he and I kind of came to this epiphany at the same point is that the skill set that we teach is as part of our coaching program to be a proactive lead generator and pre-qualify, actually picking up the phone and having real conversations, things like that. It's more relevant now than it's ever been because of all the changes that are taking place so quick. People are gravitating towards people, not digital versions of themselves, but actual conversations. They want to talk with people. Sure. They don't want to have, when they fill out a form, if you call on your website or whatever, if you call them back, that's going to be 1,000x more effective than if you just put them in some sort of digital funnel. The digital funnels and all those things certainly have their value, but they're never as good as your willingness to pick up the phone. And that's going to be more true going forward. And so it's fascinating to me, in the time you and I have been in business, how there's been all these trends that have come and gone in the real estate space, really in business, really.
Sure.
There's trends that come and go in business, and but everything seems to be gravitating towards, or rather the leading edge of what's new is kind of what's old. And that's what's fascinating to me. And I wouldn't have predicted it would happen like it is happening, but we're seeing a convergence of online and offline. But what we aren't seeing are people that have the offline skill set. So just because they have the online skill set, they can create funnels and all the rest of it. They don't have the ability to actually have real meaningful conversations, sales-focused conversations offline. But those who have both sides of the nickel, those are the ones that are winning.
Yes, those are the ones that have the most versatility, the highest level of ability to help different people in different situations. And I would agree with you because I don't know what percent, but it's got to be 70 to 80% of our coaching questions center in some way around communication.
Yep.
And whether that's give me a script for this, or how do I approach a seller about that, or how to deal with conflict, that's a big one, which, negotiating happens at lots of different points in a transaction. So yeah, I would agree with you that there is a big difference between being able to, type a email or a Twitter or a Facebook comment versus dealing with real situations with people who expect you to be the solution to their real estate challenge or problem.
Well, it's sort of like the sizzle versus the steak, right? Mm-hmm. And so what a lot of people are being trained to is just have the sizzle, but there's no steak. There's no there. They're, as we used to say when we lived in Texas, right? Tall hat, no cattle.
Well, and you can get away with that much easier online, but that is always revealed when you have a voice-to-voice conversation, whether that's in person or on the phone. People absolutely can detect that.
And that's something that you can't, unfortunately, you just said it, and I can't say it more concisely, right? There's a certain je ne sais quoi, or a certain quality that someone who has actually taken the time to learn skills to be basically a proactive lead generator. In other words, someone who's learned how to have high-level conversations, which is what our coaching program teaches you to do. Someone who's actually learned how to sell. And all selling is basically helping other people, your potential clients, identify what their problems are, and then showing solutions to their problems.
Through asking questions, listening to the answers, and providing that solution.
Exactly. And a lot of people think that they can skip, or I don't think they can skip the step. I don't think that they know that step is necessary, especially the younger generation. Yeah. They think that they can market their way into success. They don't realize that there's a gap. So you might be able to generate interest in what you have to sell. It doesn't matter if it's real estate or just some sort of, other product. But if you don't have the ability, now mostly, real estate's a service, right? And part of a service is whether they want to do service with you. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have an ability to take that lead, whether it's a bot lead or let's just say it's a bot lead, if you can't effectively convert that lead into a customer, you've just wasted your money.
And your time.
And that's the reason that when a lot of people get into this business, there's an unprecedented number of agents getting into real estate right now. That means that 24 months from now, there's an unprecedented number of agents failing in this business. The roadkill rate in real estate is like 90+% after 24 months. And it's even higher after 5 years. It's staggering how many people fail out of this business. And I think in my opinion, the reason they fail out of this business is because they might be able to buy leads, but they don't know what to do once they have the lead. They don't know, unless the lead is like their sister or their brother or somebody's going to be completely,
Well, it's worse than that because they don't know inherently what's a good lead, what's a bad lead, what even is a lead, right? I mean, it starts in the beginning. And you can tell because a lot of the companies that try and sell them this thing don't even call it a lead anymore. They call it impressions.
Right.
What's an impression? Well, you could look at the phone book. Those of you who know what a phone book is, you could look at the phone book for half an hour and get, there's a whole bunch of impressions there. But a lead is somebody who will transact with you, ideally in the near future, who you've had a real conversation with, asking real questions, trying to determine how serious they are, how qualified they are, how motivated they are, and if you're a good match. And I think that when you spend your life online a lot, and there's places for that, certainly, to lead capture and to communicate with people. But when you do that most of your day, you really can lose your ability to seriously communicate and to put leads through a filter and then turn that lead into an appointment and then win the appointment.
So agents nowadays think that in order for them to build successful businesses, they primarily have to focus on being good marketers. And I know they're being sold that belief by good marketers, right? Mm-hmm. They don't understand that marketing and real estate, you don't have to, there's a disconnect there. So for example, and I'll make this real basic. We give this example a lot, but I think it's something that's, it really does cut through it. If you had to take 5 listings in the next 30 days, we gave this example a couple weeks ago, and we did this when we were in front of a group in Iowa. If you had to take 5 listings in 30 days, it's not what would you do to do it. It's what would you stop doing. And you could, maybe you're going to lose your house if you don't take 5 listings in 30 days, or you're going to choose your motivation, whether it's going to be the carrot or the stick, right?
That's part of this, by the way.
Yeah, I understand. I'm trying to reel it in. I'm doing my best.
Right. I'm with
right. So whatever whatever it is it takes to get you off your butt, you have to take 5 listings in 30 days. What are you going to stop doing? And the thing it's actually it makes me laugh, but at the same time it makes me cry, to be honest with you, inside a little bit, is they all know what to do. Yeah. And then we asked a group that I'll never, the facial expressions when I pressed them. Do you remember? Yeah. They're like deer in the headline at first. And then they all knew exactly what they'd have to stop doing. And it was so funny to listen to them feed off, one fed off the other, their comments.
Once they started.
Right. Well, I would stop doing all the passive stuff. I mean, I'm summarizing what they said. They said, I'd stop doing the Twittering, I'd stop doing the Facebook videos, I'd stop doing the this and the other things.
Well, it came down to stop speculating and guessing and running your business on hopium.
Right. Exactly. Running their business on basically hopium, with the idea that if you do enough social this and the other thing and marketing, that you're going to generate leads, and those leads are somehow going to materialize into closings. And then Julie and I had this very experience. We were driving, to this country club in Des Moines where we spoke to this little group of agents, and we passed a for sale by owner, an actual FSBO, right? And this is one of those markets in Des Moines, Iowa, where the market's super hot. It's like that everywhere. And it's like, how many of you, by the way, passed by that very same FSBO?
Everyone, because it was a very obvious for sale by owner. In a very nice neighborhood, by the way.
There was only one way in, one way out back to this country club.
In a country club, after all.
And they all must have, I don't know how many of them actually acknowledged seeing it.
No, they looked away.
So subconsciously, they may have basically decided to block it. Exactly. But it's like, okay, so why would you do all this fancy marketing and worry about trying to get all your camera lights right and all this other stuff if your goal is to generate a listing lead and there's a seller who has a sign in the yard right there that says, I need to sell my house? I honestly don't understand. So that's the difference.
With their phone number on it, by the way, which you guys also like to complain about. Right. Oh, I can't get phone numbers.
But that's just an example. Yeah. And there's dozens of different sources of listing leads like that that are free. And so here we go. I just want to put this, because you guys, when you allow yourselves, and it is allow yourself to have this epiphany, you are now thinking about doing all this marketing and online lead generation. And there is a place for that. Please don't misunderstand. But if your goal is to help people make money, or maybe at this point it's to make money, right? Because you need to make money now. And there's a for sale by owner. That's someone who has their hand in the air. That's at least one transaction, probably 2 or 3 transactions, because you could sell that to your own buyer, and that seller probably has something to purchase. And right there, even in Des Moines, Iowa, I bet you that would have been over $1 million, probably $1.2, $1.3 million to combine transactions, which in Des Moines, Iowa would have been at least $30,000, maybe even more. $36,000.
And by the way, in today's market, we have shown, and there's been lots of reports showing that for sale by owners that do get listed do sell for more than what the for sale by owner was trying to sell
that's
for
a skill
most cases, and netted the seller more and faster than they could do on their own.
But again, the disconnect, what I don't understand, and I do understand why you guys think the way you think, Because what I'm asking you to do is put yourself in, a mental, emotional, ego harm's way, right? I'm asking you to have a conversation that's going to have to be skills-based, which means you're going to have to learn the skill. I'm asking you guys, suggesting, strongly encouraging you to actually do this type of work because you'll make more money faster than trying to hope and pray and then become one of the 90% to fail out of the business. You guys see there's a disconnect. And that disconnect is being, I think, amplified by all the guys and gals who sell marketing information to agents trying to convince you that you don't have to learn what we're telling you to do, that you have to just learn how to be marketing and wait for the people to call you. Well, every single licensee right now is doing marketing, hoping people praying that people call them, and that somehow their clever hooks are going to work to generate a lead. But even when they get that lead, they're not really efficient at turning that lead into a transaction, multiple transactions. They can't do it. They don't know how to do it. And that's what a skills-based approach is. Now, I want to be clear. We do see a place for marketing. We do see a place for branding. We do see a place for funnels and all the things, but those should not be the first things that you put your effort on unless you're coming into this business with mountains of money where you can basically, waste time and waste money while you figure things out. If that's your situation, which is none of you, then go ahead and try to figure out all the marketing. But for a vast majority of you, you need money now, right? Why don't you learn the skills now that will generate the money now? Doesn't that just make sense? And that's something that when I had this conversation, I don't even know how I led down this. I'm always going to be on some soapbox on our podcast. Mm-hmm. But the reality of it is I wonder how many of you guys are listening right now. If you want to make money, if you want to actually turn your business around, if you want to have the business in your life of your, dreams, it's going to come from you ultimately doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. But the real work becomes easier and you're encouraged by it because you're starting to get reinforced from the success you're experiencing from it and you want more of it. It's the same. It's that little dopamine hit when you put up a post on some social networking thing. You're hoping, and if someone then responds to your post, the world stops for you until you get to read whatever that response was. If you like somebody or you put up a post and then somebody likes it, you get a little dopamine hit by it. That's how your brain reinforces the positive behaviors. You could argue whether social is positive or not, but the social networking engineers know that they can essentially make you addicted to posting and reposting and commenting and all the rest of it because you get that little hit. The same thing happens when you start becoming successful. When you start becoming successful at something that you might perceive as being really difficult and then you realize you can do it and you can do it repetitively and it becomes easier, your brain will reinforce you doing more of that activity because you like how it feels.
Well, that's the best part of our Facebook Live sessions.
Totally.
Is when that happens, and it always is textbook the same way. It's never as hard as you guys have made it out into your heads. Never as hard as you've been ruminating about, procrastinating about, getting ready to get started to someday possibly do something about. But then, you guys come to the Facebook Live for Premier Coaching and you share, we spend 5 or 10 minutes on each session called Challenges and Victories. And when you share your challenges, it always starts out the same way, Tim. They'll say, "You are not going to believe this."
I know.
And of course, as coaches, we always believe it because, not only have we coached it forever, but we also lived it. So yes, we do believe it.
By the way, that's our little dopamine hit, if you want to know the truth.
It is.
When we get that, when we see you guys
awesome.
becoming successful and experiencing your little epiphanies and your little mental, emotional breakthroughs, that is an unbelievable thrill. We have, over a dozen coaches that work with us, and Julie and I, we've been doing this forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
But we still get a massive hit of just happiness and joy and just celebratory. We'd love to celebrate your success with you. It's incredible.
Well, one of my favorite things to do, and this comment comes from you guys on multitude of levels. We just talked about it for Sell by Owner, but certainly expireds and talking to your past clients, your centers of influence, even getting better at your lead follow-up, getting faster using real scripts. It always starts out the same way. You're not going to believe this, and this is the success that I got. So my favorite thing to do is to take that as an example. So let's say that you were going to have a net commission of $7,500 from the fact that you just had that victory yesterday. Well, let's say that you're that successful twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's worth $15,000 to you. Times, you multiply the math out, and your ability that you just discovered that you probably, if you're like normal people, procrastinated and dodged and avoided and made into a big, dramatic event, that now you have a superpower, times your average net commission, even on a very conservative level, almost always ends up being worth $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year.
What she's describing is the real estate magic number, which you determine
and
after
the
having
scalability of your skill.
Yeah, exactly. Which you will again the ultimate manifestation of the business model that we coach you guys towards is to focus on having a consistent number of listings. Not, your business should not be based on buyers, should not be based on all these other complicated, overly analytical things. It should be based on the number of listings. And we help you to
ahead again.
I know.
Right.
And we help you to determine what your magic number of listings is. And we want to give you the real estate treasure map for free. We're in the process of updating it, by the way. Trevor is updating it again. He's making it much prettier and cleaning it up.
Trevorizing it.
Yeah, exactly. He's making all the colors match and all this other stuff. Anyway, so we want to give you the real estate treasure map for free. It's a fill-in-the-blank business plan. And the output really is you determining what it is that the number of listings you need to have. It's a whole goal-setting experience. It's, pretty exhaustive. But it's very, when you've completed it, it's very rewarding. And again, I think we need to go through it and make it even better.
And it's effective.
Right, it's effective, right. But here's the punchline. We want to give it to you for free. And all you got to do is text the word success to 47372. Just text the word success to 47372. And it is the way for you to get started and understand the path that we've created for you. And we've created, obviously, that thousands of other agents have followed over the years. Follow that path, guys. It's going to get you to a point where you're consistently profitable, where you can start laughing at some of the gimmicks that are being sold to agents, not for the sake of the agents being sold gimmicks, but for the sake of the fact that you'll never have to actually succumb to buying a gimmick and you're no longer chasing shiny objects because you now know consistently how to generate your own business. And again, if you want to backfill with marketing, if you want to backfill with some passive stuff, do it. But here's what ultimately happens when you're generating enough net positive income from your proactive lead generation. You aren't even remotely attracted to doing passive lead generation because you're going to think to yourself, well, your brain is rewired, right? So Mr. in a marketing company is trying to sell me some branding idea, trying to sell me into buying leads or whatever. But if you know you can create your own leads, if you know that you can create your own leads consistently that will result in a consistent number of listings, a consistent amount of income, you will then start literally laughing at the people that are calling you because you're going to know that you don't need them. You're free. That's a first step that you have to actually being a true business owner.
Yes, and our coaching clients love sharing that story too, where they'll kind of transcribe, so-and-so company called me trying to sell whatever widget. And I said, if your widget is so good, why are you calling me?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And they love that because they get it.
Well, but that's my favorite really, joke ever. It's like Zillow was famous for having these 3 massive call floors. They had built and scaled up, and it was state of the art, military grade call floors. I don't even know how many people they had working for them. I bet it was hundreds. I bet it maybe even 1,000 people. Yeah. And all they were doing is cold calling agents every single day and selling them into Premier Agent. I got your zip code available. We have leads available. They don't do it anymore. They closed all the call floors because they reached a point of saturation and, they pivoted towards iBuyers. But the moral of the story was I always thought it was hilarious how agents would be so willing to buy leads, online leads, that they didn't bridge the mental gap between the fact that the person selling them the online lead was doing it over making a phone call, and yet that agent wasn't willing to make phone calls themselves, not even to their own centers of influence and past clients. And yet the people that were selling them these supposedly great, leads were making phone calls. Why weren't they able to think, well, the person trying to sell me the passive lead idea was actually doing what I should have been doing in the first place?
I know. It's ironic, isn't
It's
it?
ironic.
Okay.
Well, okay. So the topic is your fourth quarter plan. Meanwhile, back on topic, your fourth quarter plan. And Julie, let's get through maybe 1 or 2 more points.
Just the first 2 because they're related to
And I have a Zoom in a half hour. So
okay, gotcha. All right. So yesterday we talked about how many actual work days you've got left, and your exercise was to actually figure that out for yourself based on your schedule, your calendar. Think that through. So if you missed yesterday's podcast, get caught up. Point number 1 on our fourth quarter plus plan for you. We always start out with some mindset type of things. Let's say it's December 31st. This year, right now, we've been through the holidays, we've done everything. It is December 31st. You are looking back on the year. What 3 things are you most proud of accomplishing in business and in your personal life? What are the 3 things you are most proud of accomplishing? That's part of your homework. I want you to think about that. Now, if I'm thinking about coaching clients, a lot of them will say, this has been my best year ever. Here's why. I figured this out, and that out. I implemented this and that. I've been able to handle more business this year than I've ever handled before.
But I will say to you, Jules, the specific assignment that you're giving him here is 3 very specific drilled down goals, not sort of emotions.
Well, I was working in that direction.
But so drilling down, because sure. I hate things that aren't practical, right? It drives me crazy. But so from a business perspective, you would want to say, for example, between now and the end of the year, which 4 months, let's say. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, so we're pretending that we're already there, right? So what are your 3 things? A specific thing would be, I created the pre-listing package.
There you go.
I know how to use it. I listen to all of the coaching calls that go with it. I implement it every time like I've been coached to do 100% of the time. I don't have different rules for different people. And as a result, I'm winning more listing appointments than I've ever gone on before.
Well, so along those lines, one of the 3 things that you might want to look back upon in December on, celebrating almost New Year's Day, Zoe's birthday, by the way, is to have said, I took 3 listings. I took 5 listings. I took 10 listings.
Yes.
I'm looking back the last 4 months, and I moved heaven and earth in my life, and I finally have realized that what Tim and Julie have been saying for all these years is absolutely true, and I'm a proactive lead generator, and I'm driving to Des Moines, Iowa right now, and I'm going to list that damn FSBO.
That's right. And you might say something like, first quarter this year, I was very buyer heavy. I was very frustrated. I couldn't find inventory. I wasn't winning all the time. And by the end of the year, I have migrated my business towards being a powerful listing agent, and I've actually accomplished my magic number. That would be a significant and specific thing to be proud of. And of course, on the personal side, some of you guys have saved more money this year than ever. Maybe a specific thing is you paid off a credit card, a student loan, something like that.
I just thought of something funny.
What's
I didn't say this, but I think it'll make everybody laugh. So I'm taking you back a couple weeks. We're in Des Moines, Iowa. We're doing that whole thing about, asking them what would they'd stop doing and whatever. Yeah. I didn't tell you this.
What?
At the end, when people were coming up and saying hi and shaking hands and taking pictures and we were signing books or whatever, they were, someone said to me about that FSBO, as I used as an example. They said to me, well, everybody's calling that FSBO. And I said, really? I said, there's 27 of you or whatever in this room. None of you called that FSBO.
Right.
Your belief that other people are soliciting that FSBO. And here's another question I have for you. What are you doing to try to proactively lead generate? Or what are you doing to lead generate? I'm buying leads. I'm doing this. I'm doing the other thing. So you're not telling me that there are not 15 billion other agents that are chasing those exact same.
Which is absolutely true.
Yeah, absolutely is true. And so it's a mindset issue, but I thought that was hilarious.
It is an interesting comparison, though, because you're right. When they buy leads, somewhere subconsciously they think it's like their lead. And that's why they put it in their database and drip on it,
It's
right?
worse than that. Okay, here's the worse than that. So when an agent buys a lead from, let's just pick the company. Let's just pick on Zillow since we're picking on Zillow. So if they buy so when they buy a buyer lead from Zillow, not only is Zillow selling that buyer lead to other agents, but that same buyer actually went to other websites and filled out other forms. And so that, maybe it's realtor.com, for example, or one of the billions of other companies that sell buyer leads. And so the realtor.com is then selling that same buyer lead to the agents that they're buying that. And then they went to some other, other website, and 5 other websites, whatever.
Right. And we could spin this tail up even more, that person was just doing research when they did that.
Yeah.
And just trying to gather information. And they are for sure going to use their previous agent, or they're actually being relocated and told who to use with. They're not even going to respond to anything that they just signed up for.
Well, we know statistically, the research is in, this has been proven, that people that are essentially filling out online, right, are the least qualified of all the leads. They're the people that are in the very beginning stages of either the buying or the selling process. The crappiest leads are what you guys buy. And if you want it, so the point being, I just thought I had that thought popped in my head, the image of the person asking me that, how amazing it was that they hadn't put all the thoughts together, that A, nobody in the room had actually solicited that for sale by owner, and B, all the other things that they're doing are absolutely oversaturated with everyone in the room probably doing the exact same things.
I know.
It's kind of extraordinary. It's the same reason, for example, I had one of our new member coaches asking me, a new member, Michael, he said that he hears a lot about the brokerage sometimes offering in-house coaching and mentoring and all the rest of it as a way of a recruiting tool for new agents. Great. I love it. But, and he was saying that sometimes the new agents don't understand that they are then going to be trained and given the exact same, bullets for their gun when going on a listing appointment as every other single agent in their office. And their goal is to differentiate themselves, not to be the same.
But that comes with business maturity and having your butt kicked sometimes, because you don't just get your license and know that. That's when you're in unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know that.
Right.
And until somebody like, our new member coaches points that out, or somebody, a good example of that would be, well, why do I want to do your pre-listing package? My company already gives us one.
You mean
right?
you and the 300 other agents that have the exact same
Exactly.
pre-listing package, right?
Exactly. But they don't naturally think
Well,
that
it's because
way.
they don't realize that when you're competing for anything in life, be it a seller or a buyer, a lady who you're going to ask to marry, you're competing. Life is about competing. Yes. I know competing has become a bad word, but it truly is.
It's a fact of life.
It's a fact of life. You're competing, right? So you do it consciously and subconsciously. Nature does it, right? Why is it that in nature birds are certain colors, or things look the way they look? Because they're competing, right? That's what they're doing. That's how life works. You have to look at real estate, and you have to be thinking in terms of what makes me unique in the marketplace. And if you're doing what everybody else is doing, which is what most of you are doing, you're just the same. You're like everybody else.
Which is the same reason why they ask you to reduce your commission and why you fall prey to overpricing things, because that's your act of desperation.
And so that goes back to the skills approach. If you know what to say and how to say it, and everybody else is basically dancing around in front of a camera for posting a real estate on, a video on TikTok, hoping it's going to attract real estate leads. I mean, those people really are spending a lot of time doing something that will never generate them anything. But psychologically, they're feeling like they're doing something that's going to generate business. And look, I get it. I understand why you guys do it. But how much better would you feel versus doing all that passive stuff if you'd actually gone and called that for sale by owner and set a listing appointment, followed our scripts, sent the pre-listing pack, pre-qualified that seller, gotten the listing, sold the house, sold another house, maybe double into the house that you just listed.
You mean the 7-step listing process that we've done podcasts on and we coach about, and it's in the Harris Rules and it's in the Treasure Map, thing?
Guys, hopefully all of this should be self-apparent by now. This is the #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in at least the United States. We're listened to in over 60 different countries. So what we're saying must be resonating with a lot of you at a level that maybe some of you don't yet want to admit. It's funny, too, when people join our coaching program. We always have a ton of people that join towards the end of the year, and they always say the same thing. I should have done this earlier.
Right. I've been listening to you for years.
That's what we hear. I've listened to you guys for a couple of years. I've used what you said.
It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, it's not that you guys are slow learners. It's something about your personality that makes you want to suffer before you're willing to give yourself the relief of following a proven path. It's almost like Julie and I just got done driving around the country for 2 months. We drove over 8,000 miles with Zoe. What if we'd done that without navigation? I mean, that's what you guys are doing basically when you start your real estate businesses, or you take a little bit from there and a little bit from here. You're not actually following a proven plan. Does that really make sense to you? It doesn't, does it?
Well, and back to coaching, I often will have them, usually they don't know what I'm up to, so I'll just share it with these guys, where you have 2 different pieces of paper, just clean sheets of paper, and I'll have them draw point A. And they won't know what we're doing here. But point A, you start there, and I'll tell them, just draw a squiggly line and then end up on point B on the other side of the page. But in between, you're going to, take some detours, some squiggles. Maybe you'll stop and start a lot. And then eventually you're going to end up at point B. Okay, so set that aside. And then the next page, you're going to draw point A, point B, and draw a straight line. What are these things depicting? Well,
it's even worse than that.
The first one is how most people go about life, but also running their businesses. They stop and they start. They try. They turn here. They look there. They look for confirmation bias. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
They never get there.
They probably aren't even going to get to point
ever.
B.
The squiggly line people are never going to get there.
Yeah.
They go back and forth. It's not a squiggly line that's progressing forward.
No.
It's a squiggly line that looks like a
jumbled mess.
A jumbled mess of a circle.
Right, which is wasting your time and wasting your money.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And yet there's something innate in a lot of people that, and who knows what the psychology is, truthfully, but they just don't want to take the quickest, most assured path to accomplishing their goal. They want to make like an art and science of the needless suffering. And that's, again, guys, listen, there's virtually all of you listening. The chances of you surviving long-term in this business, the numbers are against you. And why? It's because of that. It's because you don't do what Julie said, and you don't take the shortest path from A to B. You, for some reason, want to create this sort of painful, continuum of false starts and stops and whatever that never leads you anywhere except where you started again. And in some cases, unfortunately, because you've, bought a lot of these shiny object ideas, It's where you started, but now you're in debt because you have to pay off something that you thought was going to save the day and win you all these listings or whatever. I mean, these are the realities of being in business, but this is the reality of being in the real estate business. And I hope all you guys are listening. I hope you're not just filtering what we're saying because we're in the coaching and training business. I hope you're understanding the nature of what we're saying, the importance of basically taking a business approach to real estate, realizing that your highest and truest purpose on this planet is being of service to other people. You might not feel that now, but you will when you start transacting, because the money is going to almost become the side stream benefit of the innate, deep down pleasure, sense of meaning that you get from helping people. The helping people thing will quickly become, assuming you basically stay in the business long enough, more impactful and motivational than the money. And that's kind of an interesting thing that you learn along the way that hopefully some of you have already experienced yourselves.
Mm-hmm. So take action. Don't wait so long. Don't waste so much time and so much money and frustration. Just join our coaching now to help you straighten that line and shorten the learning curve.
So let's go and let's give them one more point, and then I got to get ready for this.
This is related. So point number one was, looking back on the year, what 3 things are you proud of accomplishing? Well, point number 2 is related. If today was actually December 31st, and you're looking back now, what is your woulda, shoulda, coulda list if you didn't have fourth quarter plus to correct course? Now, some of you guys are having kick-ass years, and you're going to keep it up, and you're going to have a lot to be grateful for. But if today was actually December 31st, and that was it, it's the end of this year, what's your woulda, coulda, shoulda list? I should have done this. I could have done that.
Sent Tim and Julie a nice Christmas present.
Anniversary present. It's all good.
Zoe's birthday present. Hey, if it's December 31st, you still have a few days left. Her birthday's on the 1st of January.
That's right.
All right, let's give them one more.
Okay. Well, so
it's the woulda, shoulda list under business and under personal. But guys, the way to make this work is to be very specific.
Like, what do you know that you're avoiding? I ask coaching clients this. If I were to descend upon your office and pop by, you didn't know I was coming, what would you be embarrassed about? What do I think you're doing that you're not doing or that you're no longer doing, especially with our more experienced agents and brokers? What do you fear that I'm going to ask you about that has to do with profitability? What are you hiding? Stuff like that. And sometimes it doesn't seem like that big of a thing. I know you've had some coaching calls before with longtime coaching clients that did systematize their business, but because they get busy and because they've got a lot of money coming in, they just kind of stopped sending the pre-listing package all the time, or they stopped pre-qualifying until something bites them in the butt.
Well, my favorite is when I hear somebody say, well, you start out by, prospecting. Mm-hmm. And then when you have enough centers of influence and past clients, you just basically focus on your centers of influence and past clients. No. That isn't how you build a business.
I don't recall
you don't do one spoke, and once the spoke works, you stop doing it.
Abandon it.
And then you go on to another one. That's not how you actually build a consistent business. Or the other, this one's terrible, but it's so true. You start out by doing, the real work of real estate and really, doing the FSBOs and the unrepresented owners and the things that are the proactive lead generation things. And once you have enough cash flow, then you start buying your leads.
I know.
It's like, what?
Happens a lot.
Yes, it's insanity.
Well, and then usually what happens is your accountant makes you do a profit and loss.
Well.
And you discover that it wasn't what you thought. You were doing more units, but you're not making more money.
Or they just basically start to not be able to pay their bills, and they become so addicted to buying business that they don't know how to do anything else.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, for example, you're going to start experiencing the thing that works really good. Most things that work really good for less than a year. Julie and I
talked about that this morning.
We did. Most things that marketing-wise, most things that work for, it used to be you could come out with something like, I remember very clearly when Google started doing pay-per-click ads. It was over the holidays. We were living in New Albany, Ohio. And I remember I read about this Google pay-per-click thing, and I thought, well, how does this work? And I remember I was just screwing around with it. It was super cheap because nobody else was doing it, 3 cents. And then it was like, what the hell is happening? And then it was maybe a year later that it became oversaturated. Everybody and their brother was doing it. And it just was, didn't make sense to do anymore. But now it doesn't take a year for a great thing to stop working. It takes like 6 months and then 90 days. Because there's all these people that don't know how to do anything other than buy leads.
Well, and it doesn't just stop working. You don't wake up one day and go, oh, that's over. It happens gradually, so you don't notice it sometimes until it's virtually too late.
That's right. So you want to do one more point, or do you want to wrap?
You're the one with the Zoom call coming
Oh, you know what? I do have my Zoom call coming up, and I have to get ready for my Zoom call
Indeed.
because it's a big meeting, and I have to review what the meeting's about because all I remember is I have a Zoom call. I have no idea who it is or what it's about.
You have to primp and spiff up and
Exactly.
do your thing.
I have to look like I'm not wearing gym clothes.
Yes, indeed. So.
Oh, hold on. This
Wait a
is an
minute.
actual Zoom call. The camera's going to be on.
I know.
I definitely have to clean up.
Yep.
So, guys, listen. In the meantime, text the word success to 47372. Text the word success to 47372. And I'm going to leave you with this one little tip. Don't, and again, we've been saying this every day, don't start 2022 in 2022. Start 2022 yesterday, last week, today, right? Mm-hmm. If you're planning on losing weight next year, like everybody else and their brother, why don't you start now so when next year rolls around, you've already got half the weight off of you, right?
You have good habits going into the year instead of resetting when the beginning of the year.
If you just do that emotionally, you're going to have so much more energy, so much more motivation. You're going to have so much of a better year next year. You kind of gamed the system by starting. Your year next year isn't 12 months. You actually could have a 16-month year because you started your year early. This is a mental trick you can play with yourself that you really should. Every big business is already doing their business planning for first quarter. Every big business is already basically working on next year as if it were next year already. That's how you have to operate as well. So if you guys need us for anything, if you want to talk to Julie and I about becoming one of the members of our EXP group, of course, Julie and I are with EXP Realty. If you're not, if you are looking for a sponsor, if you've not chosen your sponsor and you're looking for a sponsor that's going to be very proactive with helping you achieve your success at EXP, and that includes everything from real estate sales to obviously sponsoring other agents, we would appreciate the opportunity to earn the right to be your sponsor. And you can just text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. If you're just getting ready and thinking about joining EXP, which most of you are, and you just want to gather your information and watch some videos, we've made that easy for you too. Just text the letters EXP to 47372. Text the letters EXP to 47372. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.